Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to be here. We pray that your Ruach HaKodesh might allow each and every one of us to come and to be able to study, to be able to come and open your Torah, unleash the Torah, and be able to give the Torah to your people. In Yeshua's name. Amen.
I got a question.
Yes,
Hanukkah starts Sunday night.
Hanukkah starts Sunday night,
Okay,
correct?
now, the Orthodox are doing the same thing. I thought we were always a day ahead of them.
No, what, in Hanukkah and Purim, we go by the Jewish calendar, not the biblical calendar, because,
They're not feasts, right?
yeah, they're not set feasts of Adonai. So there are certain things that we do here with the general Jewish community, the Orthodox community, so that we could be in line with the peace of being together, unity. One of the things that we do is that we follow the Parsha schedule of the Orthodox. There are several Parsha schedules, and we follow the Orthodox, which is common in, that means that any Jew who comes in here from any place in the world will have the same Parsha that he would had in his congregation. What that does is it brings unity with the Jewish community. Now, what's important is to maintain as much unity with the general Jewish community, Orthodox community, where things are neutral. For example, there's another Messianic pastor that decided to follow the Parsha schedule of the Orthodox, but he started it in Aviv, because he says, well, Aviv is the new year, so let's start it there. No Jewish community that we ever know ever did that. Other groups are doing the 3-year schedule. But those are few and far between. I've decided to do that so we could be at unity with the general community. And that's why sometimes we wear kippahs, so that we could identify with the general Jewish community, identify with Israel, identify with Jewishness. Because that's one thing that doesn't matter. So, because we don't have a biblical, there's no place in the Bible, Genesis to Revelation, especially in Torah, that says you have to read this. The Parshas are not scriptural. We're told to read every day. In fact, go to the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua, chapter 1. Joshua chapter 1. And beginning with verse 6, Joshua 1:6.
Hang on.
Joshua 1:6. Be strong and stand firm, for you are the man to give this people possession of the land that I swore to their fathers I should give them. Only be strong and stand firm. Be careful, not legalistic, but be careful to keep all the Torah which my servant Moses laid on you. Never swerve from this to the right or the left, and then you will be happy, you will be blessed in all you do. Have the scroll of the Torah always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful, that you may carefully keep everything that is written in it. Then you will prosper in all your dealings, then you will have success. Have I not told you? Be strong and stand firm. Be fearless then, be confident, for go where you will, Yahweh will be with you. So the Torah, which at this time in Joshua was Genesis to Deuteronomy. Moses had just gone home to be with Adonai. The Torah is there. Now Joshua, as the second in command, as the next one in line, Moses handed over everything to Joshua. So now Adonai appears to Joshua. What is written here is Adonai speaking to Joshua. And so Yahweh speaks to Joshua, and Yahweh says, be strong, stand firm.
Verse 10, it really, it ties it up together. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, then Joshua gave the officers of the people this order, go through the camp, say to the people, and then at that point they get ready to cross over. Now what's interesting is he says, keep this scroll of the Torah scroll. Now we call it the book of the law. In fact, in most Bibles it'll say the book of the law. But remember, the word book, sefer, in Hebrew, is scroll. And law in Hebrew is Torah. Have this instruction book always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night. So what has been devised is that there are in 54 weeks. This 54 weeks have been divided parashot, and a parashot is a portion. So it's been divided into 54 portions. Now every portion is divided into aliyot. Aliyah is to go up. Aliyah is to go up. And in every Sabbath service, there are 7 men that go up to read. Today, the way we do it, because we don't have 7 men, I just read the first portion. And so we only do one aliyah here. I wish we could do all 7 aliyot. We only do one aliyah. But in an Orthodox congregation, they do 7 aliyot, or 7 going up, 7 men go up. The first is always supposedly a Cohen, if there's a Cohen in the congregation. The second is a Levi, and then the third through the 7th, it could be any Jewish person 13 or over, Jewish male 13 or over. In Orthodox, of course, in the Reformed and Conservative, they're allowing women and girls to go up and read.
The Orthodox have to have 10 bar mitzvah men to have a service.
To have a service.
Okay,
A
what if
minyan.
they only get 9 or 8? Do
They-
they hang out and pray, or do they just go home?
No, what they do is they could pray alone around the congregation. They'll pray alone, and they'll, in fact, I don't know if sometimes you see them see, this is interesting about a Jewish study center. There's not only synagogues, but there's study centers. And when you go to a study center, they have tables like what we have what we do in the fellowship hall, and men just come to the study center and study by themselves. and they're studying their own portion. Well, in the study center, there's probably 2 or 3 rabbis. And it's almost like when we were in school, we had homeroom, or we had, what was the name of the?
Study hall.
Study hall, where you're studying, and then the teachers are roaming around, and if you have a question, you call the teacher. And so what they do is that you're studying your Hebrew there, and if you have a question, you come to this, and there's books everywhere. And so what you do is you raise your hand, and then you ask the rabbi, what does this mean in Hebrew? And he talks about it. And if someone hears, they could come, and sometimes you have 3 or 4 people discussing, sometimes even arguing about the point. And then that's their study centers. And the only time that you have rabbis pretty much teaching is when they do, of course, on Sabbath, or when there's a minyan of people. But if there's no minyan, each person just studies by themselves, they pray by themselves. And see, every day, the synagogue is full every day. There's always people there studying. If they get 10 men, they could actually study together. But if they don't get 10 men, they'll study by themselves.
Okay, it says here, have the book of this law always on your lips. Can you talk a little bit of the Haftarah? And because when I read at home on our Shabbat night at home, I only read the portion, right?
Right.
The parsha, the portion. But then down when I read
Yeah.
it, I open it up. It says, like for instance, this week you have I'm sorry, hang on, let me see this. You have a Haftarah, which I'm just gonna say Isaiah.
Correct.
Isaiah, one of the prophets,
Right.
one of the prophets. And then they have a gospel.
Yeah.
They have a gospel.
Yeah.
Could it be, I'm only asking, I don't know, could it be the same thing as a study of the whole Bible in a year?
No, because every portion, now remember, this is from the Torah.
Right.
Now, the Hebrew Bible, or what we call the Tanakh, or the Nach, because we have the word Tanakh over here for the Torah. The Nach part, the Nebaim and the Ketuvim, which is the second and third parts of the Hebrew Bible.
Okay, let me write this down.
This goes from Joshua, and in the Hebrew Bible, it goes to 2 Chronicles.
So the first is the Tanakh.
The Torah.
The Torah and the
Remember
Tanakh.
the word Tanakh. Tanakh is an acronym for Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim.
Torah,
And of course, Torah is translated as law. Nevi'im is translated as prophets.
Nevi'im,
Nevi'im. And then the Ketuvim is the writings.
the Ketuvim.
And of course, we know this from the Apocrypha, from Ecclesiastes, yes, and from Luke 24. So in Luke 24, Yeshua mentions the Torah, the prophets, and the writings.
Did we read Luke 24?
Luke 24. And so it mentions the Torah and the prophets. Now what's interesting is that up to the time of Moses, it was always the Torah. Here in Joshua 1, 8 that we just read, it says, have the scroll of the Torah always on your lips, which means this should always be on the lips. Now what happened is, of course, Joshua was the first prophet in the Hebrew sense. Joshua's the prophet, all the way to Chronicles. Now in English, in the Greek Bible, in English Bibles, we go from Joshua to Malachi. It's the same system. It's just that the Hebrew orders are different than the Greek, and the English today follows the Greek. So this is Hebrew.
Joshua to Second Chronicles?
Yeah, in the Hebrew Bible. And in the Greek Bible that we remember said the LXX, which is the Greek Bible, it goes from Joshua to Malachi. These are, and this equals 39 books. This one equals 24 books. 24 scrolls and 39 books, but they're the same thing, because this one makes 1st and 2nd Samuel one book, and this one makes it two. 1st and 2nd Kings one book, this makes it two. The 12 minor prophets are one scroll, this makes it 12. And 12, so it's the same scrolls, but this one, everything is compacted in a scroll. Now what's interesting is that in the time of Antiochus, about 167 and before Yeshua, what happened is that Antiochus forbid the Torah scrolls. He burned the Torah scrolls. But, and this tells us something, in the time of Antiochus, which was in between, this was 167 years, this was in between Malachi and Matthew, this was considered the word of Elohim. Now this, the Hebrew writings, the prophets and the writings, Antiochus didn't care if they had those. He didn't burn the prophets and the writings, he just burned the Torah scrolls, because they were Torah observant. Now, always remember, this is the word of Elohim. The Torah and the prophets is the word of Elohim. Joshua to Chronicles, and for us believers, Joshua to Revelation is commentary on Torah. Joshua to Revelation is commentary on Torah. Torah is the word of Elohim. So Antiochus forbid the Torah, so what, after the Maccabees, or at the time of the Maccabees, what they started doing, since the Maccabees did not have the Torah, because again, they were burning them, and I'm sure they had them themselves, what they would do publicly is they would read from a verse in Isaiah, for example, that corresponded to something here, because this is commentary on this. So if Isaiah or Zechariah or a psalm commented here, instead of reading that, this would be a reminder of this. So they called it the Haftarah.
So I'm
Now the
recording
word
this now.
Haftarah, by the way, does not mean half of the Torah. It's not half Torah, it's Haftarah, which is additional. Now, after the Maccabees took over and Judaism flourished, one of the things that occurred is that they continued reading the Torah, but they started reading the Haftarah also. Now, in modern times with Messianic congregations, depending on the group that is producing the Parsha schedule, they've added Gospels, and some of them are adding epistles. And in a sense, that's where the Catholic Church got the idea of an Old Testament reading, a Gospel reading, and a New Testament reading. So the Catholic Church got that from the Orthodox Jews. Now, we think that Yeshua, in Yeshua's time, that they read the scriptures in a 3-year method. Yeshua, when he got up to read, they gave him the Haftarah of Isaiah 61. And so he reads the Haftarah and he comments on it. And that's what they would do. What they would do is they'd select different people, 7 people to read the Torah, and then they'd select 1 person to read the Haftarah. And the guy who read the Haftarah commented on the Haftarah and on the Torah. He was the guy who would be the last one, and he would be the one that would give the sermon, if you will. So Yeshua got the honor, and he read the Haftarah, but then he probably commented on the Torah portion of that day, which we don't know what it would be. Again, because if they're going through a 3-year schedule, they would be able to.
That's like that series that I have that on that Glenn McWilliams.
Mhm.
He used to be with Michael Rood.
Mm-hmm.
He taught on the triennial
Triennial cycle.
cycle, and I've got those tape sets in the
Oh.
triennial cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, the triennial cycle is probably the most ancient.
Mhm.
Of course, that is also an addition, a neutral addition, not taking away, not adding to Torah or taking away from Torah, but a neutral addition of fulfilling the mitzvot, the commandment, to have these words on your lips every day. So what that does, now, by the way, this is also important, very important point. If the Parsha for this week, by Hashem, today, by Hashem, you should have been reading by Hashem
Sunday.
since that Sunday.
Right.
And you know how it's divided into 7 aliyot?
Oh, what is aliyot mean, one more time?
Aliyot means to go up and read.
Oh, to go up and read.
So there are 7 readings, every week there are 7 readings. So 7 men go up and read, in an Orthodox congregation, 7 men go up and read the Torah portion. And that takes a long time, and one of the things is, you know how when I go up to read, the cantor comes and does, Baruch atah Adonai, and he does the cantoring and the blessing, bless the family of bless Ishmael ben Halevi and his family. Well, that would be done in the first one, and he'd read, and then they do the closing. And then the next one, the Gabi, who is like an usher, and what the usher would do is he would say, right before when you come into service, I went to a service one time, and I sat down, and this is when I knew Hebrew, but there's no way I could read a Torah scroll. This is, way, way early. So I go visit, and I sat in the back, and right away, as soon as I sat in the back, the Gavi comes up to me and says, I'm the Gavi, and of course at that time I didn't, what's a Gavi? And he says, are you Cohen, a Levi, or Israel? I said, well at that time I said, I'm a Gentile, and he says, oh, you're not Jewish. And I said, I tried talking to him
Not to
about
let you know.
some of my understandings of my grandma and stuff like that. But he said, okay, just sit there. And so I just sat there. But what they do is the Gavi will come, and especially if you're a visiting Jew from another congregation or from another city or someplace else, they give you an honor to read the Torah scroll. I went to a Messianic congregation, again, years and years ago, and the rabbi kind of knew who I was. And so I come and sat down, and he kind of recognizes me. And so he comes up to me and says, would you like to come up and read the portion? And I said, you know what, I'm not, I could read it with points, but at that point, I couldn't read it without points. So he says, well, can you come up for the third reading? And what they do, if they don't have enough people in the congregation to read the Torah scrolls, what they do is they get 7 men, and if 2 people could read, the 2 people that could get the first one. Well, what he did is when it was my turn, the Gavi called my name. Can you come up to the bima? And to come up is aliyah, to rise up, to come up,
Yeah.
aliyah. So can you make aliyah? So I made aliyah, and they told me this beforehand. You go up, and then he says, when I put my talit on the portion, and the cantor begins the blessing, and he asked me my name and my father's name. And at that time I said, Dennis Ben Ismael, because that's my father's name is Ismael. And so I said, and so he says, may Adonai bless the family of Dennis Ben Ismael. I had my hand there, and then I had to be like this. And as he read the portion, it's as if I was reading it. It was as if I was reading it. And so I got the blessing for him because I didn't know enough Hebrew. He read it in my stead. And that's what they do if there's a Jewish congregation, when some people that are Jewish don't know how to, because a lot of Jews don't know how to read scripture. They don't know how to read Torah. Some of them, the only time they read Torah was in their bar mitzvah, and if they're in their 50s, 60s, that might,
And now that you know Hebrew and you can read from the Torah, they don't want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah, now if I go someplace and they won't have me read. In fact, the same, I've gone to there 3 times, and he has let me read, but he's the only one that has let me read.
When I did my impromptu bar mitzvah in Hebron, that's what he would read it for me, and then I would repeat it. We'd do the
Yeah.
Torah reading.
Yeah,
The fact that they do that is pretty attractive to me, because that shows an openness, and they welcome people in to read. That's an honor. They don't just do that for anyone.
all right.
And a lot of times, at least myself, I have a tendency to think that it's so liturgic and so stiff that it would be impossible to even understand anything there. But it isn't.
It
After
isn't.
hearing that, it's
Correct.
there's a lot of Christian churches and other places that aren't that welcoming.
Well, see, this is the thing about Judaism that we really need to preserve. And this is the thing that now, looking at it from our side, I really understand Judaism, and I understand the rabbis a little bit more clearly, because I see it happening in Messianic congregations. there is a culture, a Hebraic culture, even though some of it had been infiltrated by hyper-rabbinic orthodoxy, but there is a Hebraic culture that we should preserve that in Messianic congregations is really slipping away. And even in Jewish Messianic congregations, in Gentile Messianic congregations, it's really slipping away, but even in Jewish Messianic congregations, it's slipping away. Because there's a richness in a lot of Jewish areas, and one of them is hospitality. We start seeing this, of course, in Scripture. Yeshua, even though he had left Nazareth, when he comes back to Nazareth, they give him the honorary role. Notice that when Paul goes throughout the empire, they always ask him, come and read. Come and share words with us. And the Jewish community worldwide is one family. One family. And that one family, if a brother Jew from someplace else comes in, he is welcomed as family. And he gets a position of honor. So if we would have a visitor Jewish person, the first thing that I would say, if I found out that a Jewish person was coming, the first thing I'd go up to him and says, would you give us the honor of reading from the Torah scroll? Now notice that when Moshe comes here, or one of the, somebody else that has come, David Rubin, or some of those guys, I always say, would you like to read from the Torah scroll? Because it is an honor to have a brother Jew from, especially Israel, to be able to read the Torah scrolls to the people. And that's an honor. If a Jewish person were to come, and always, if you know of any Jewish person that comes, always let me know, or make sure you share with them. The pastor would be honored if you would read from the Torah scrolls. And again, I've opened that invitation to Messianic rabbis. And the last two Messianic rabbis or people that have come, like tomorrow, we're going to have David Lee, Alan Lee.
Alan Lee.
We're going to have Alan Lee here tomorrow.
In the morning?
In the morning. And so he is a Messianic teacher, but I don't know if he knows Hebrew. I don't think he does. I've never, but we'll give him that honor. Would you like to read the Torah scrolls? And if he says no, then what we'll do is we'll do the same thing to him. We'll have him come up, and we'll get his name, and we'll have him stand next to me, and I'll read the Torah scroll, the Torah portion, in his honor. And that's what is done in Orthodoxy or even conservative, and that's what has been done to me, and that's what we'll do to him. And then he will give us a teaching on the Torah portion. Again, if he's not able to, then I'll just have him share some things, and then I'll give a portion. I'll give a teaching on the Torah portion.
Am I mistaken, or is he that same guy that wanted no government, no license plates and things like that?
No,
Oh,
no.
he's not?
No,
Who's that guy?
that was who was that guy? Was it Ellen Lee?
It sounds familiar, but
I don't think it was him. I think it was someone else. It was the guys that me and Zach and Ron went to Texas, and they had some malicious stuff that we were.
It
yeah.
wasn't him?
No, no,
Okay.
we didn't go with him, no, it was someone else that, yeah. But, Alan Lee has come here several times. He is friends, with, Joanne. And she's the one that, invited him. So we'll just, play it by ear again.
I think he's gonna be teaching at their home also.
Yeah, he's going, yeah. In fact, probably that whole group is going to be, and that's what he usually does. When he comes, they have him over with that group. I think Doug and that group over there.
Well, then it seems to me it would be to our benefit to try and open those lines more with people, like with Moshe,
Mhm.
That's a real strong and good relationship. And to me, he embodies what I think most Orthodox Jews or conservative Jews really believe. They don't say anything. They don't want to deal with the rabbis, but
He embodies Israeli Jewish faith.
yeah,
He doesn't embody American Judaism. American Judaism and Israeli Jewish faith are two separate entities. And of course, American, because they are in enemy territory, as it were, so they've actually built defenses around themselves, part of it because of the Christian onslaught against them throughout the centuries, but especially in America. In Israel, they are at home. And so they're able to let their guard down and able to have some, I guess what we would say, some dialogue. And I think Moshe, what he wants to do with us is have dialogue with us and have that time of just fellowshipping with us and wanting to get us closer to him and him closer to us. Several times he's wanted me to go with him to Israel. And he's talked about having his rabbi ordain me a rabbi in Israel, which according to them, if you're not ordained in Israel, you're not a rabbi. According to him and many people, most American rabbis aren't rabbis because they were ordained in America or other place, and they were ordained after graduating from seminary, from Jewish seminary, Hebrew Union or one of the other ones. But according to them, and this is the strong Orthodox view, you're a rabbi when other rabbis consider you a rabbi. So like over here, if, say one of you here would be very pastorally, what I would do, say on a Sabbath morning, is, come up and, just call you up and lay hands on you and says, you're a pastor. At that point, you have become a pastor. It's almost like you could go to West Point and graduate and become an officer. But you could be in the middle of a war and you're just a sergeant and you have all the qualifications, but you've never been to West Point. You could get what they call a battlefield promotion. Now you're the colonel.
I got a battlefield promotion by Nehemiah Gordon, remember?
Oh.
Doctor.
Doctor.
I'm a doctor now.
Yeah. In fact, we need to start calling James Dr. Herrera. Now, I don't know what kind of doctor he thought you were. Was it,
You're not supposed to bring that into the congregation.
brain surgeon or PhD or, something like that? Yes, sir.
Well, then why don't you do it?
What's that?
Go to Israel with Moshe. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't, because they're giving you an honor to do that. They don't just do that to anybody.
Now, he's been wanting me to do that for several years. One of the reasons, he says, is that he wants me to get Israeli citizenship. He says, once you are ordained in Israel as a rabbi by an Orthodox rabbi, and not in the religion sense, but by them, he says, at that point, there's no question, you have automatic citizenship.
But that is what Richard's saying. The deal is, how would a rabbi, I'm saying this, right? I know you know the Quran, you're good at what you do, but how does a rabbi know? What kind of, would you have to show, would you have to be at least a little bit disciplined under this rabbi? Or checked out by this rabbi to
Well,
see if you are.
I've already been, that's already occurred through Moshe. See, one of the things about the way they do things in Israel differently that he's told me or that others have told me or that I've studied is that they don't just hand out
That's what I'm saying.
things like that to anybody. But notice that every time Moshe comes here, what he tells the people. And he's told me this, and he's told this, said publicly, that and he said, he's told me, there's something about a person, there's something about a man, not just the knowledge, but the person that says, he says, the first time I saw you, I knew you were a rabbi. He said, first time I saw you, first time I heard you, you were a rabbi. And he said, that's why I like to come over here. Now this is what's interesting about Moshe, is that he doesn't have to come over here. I think he loses when he comes over here, because he pays his own way. Sometimes he loses in other areas.
Hey.
And what's interesting is that he comes here, he could be going to a Sukkot where they have 2,000-3,000 people. He's been invited so many times, and he's told them, I'm sorry, but I'm going with Dr. I'm going to Olive Tree. Because in that way, he supports us in a way that, and I don't think he really gets, that's why I always tell you guys, when he comes, buy something from him, even if you don't need it. And because there's a connection that he has towards us, that he wants us to be. In fact, there was a meeting in California 3 years ago. It was a MJAA conference. And that's right after Rabbi Shapiro came over here. And remember, Rabbi Shapiro came over here and we had a conference at the hotel. And Rabbi Shapiro and Moshe got together and they talked about me. And so Rabbi Shapiro and Moshe invited me to go to the conference there in Irvine, Texas. Not Texas, Irvine, California. And so I went over there, and this is one of the biggest Messianic groups. The UMJC is probably the biggest, and this is the MJA is the second biggest, but they both of them are worked together. And he had both of them took me to meet the administration, all the big rabbis, Messianic rabbis. Because both of them suggested to them that they should ordain me a rabbi in their, a Messianic rabbi in their organization. And now I didn't know that at the time when I got there. That's, you know, he told me, we want you to come to this service, and, you know, we want you to meet these guys. Well, I met them. We went in a closed door session, and they asked me all kinds of questions. And, of course I failed. I wasn't good enough for them. And the main reason was because I use Yahweh. First question they said, do you use Yahweh? Yes, I do. Are you willing to give up using Yahweh, you know, saying Lord? And I said no. And because most Jewish organizations, Messianic, don't want to offend the greater Jewish community, and
They need to be offended.
they need to be offended. But Moshe said, these guys are crazy. He said, he kept saying that, these guys are crazy. He said, you're more of a rabbi than even the guys that would be ordaining you a rabbi. He says, you're more a rabbi. I respect you more as a rabbi than them. And he's said that for other rabbis too. Over here, don't want to mention. And, he says, these guys aren't rabbis. So Moshe, talking to his rabbi in Israel, has already cleared me and has already said, anytime we go over there, in fact, we were gonna be going over there 2 years, was it 2 years, when we were gonna go to the Holocaust, and then from there go to Israel, but that's when he got in his accident, so we weren't able to go.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, some of these things. Yes.
So let's establish a,
What Holocaust, will you go to the Holocaust and then?
Oh, we were gonna go to,
Poland.
Poland,
Oh.
and to go visit, he wanted to take me to go with him to meet, in fact, the rabbi was gonna be there in Poland. They're gonna have I think it was Holocaust, day, and they were gonna be there in,
We're gonna do the march.
well, yeah, March,
That march
yeah,
through Poland.
yeah.
Well, it was broadcast live, I think.
Oh, is that right?
There's a memorial there and,
Yeah.
it was a
When
big
you
thing.
went to the church.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there to meet his rabbi, and then from there, we were gonna go to Israel, and, you know, that's when he wanted me to, again, make connection. I don't know if I would have been ordained there, or, because to them, there's no you don't prepare, they just do it when they feel it's time. But, Lester, you were gonna
yeah,
say
well,
something?
we need to establish a rabbi fund.
A what?
A rabbi fund.
Oh, a rabbit's fund. Okay, what we're talking about?
Joshua.
Oh,
We were talking about,
so, yeah, that's what we do. So there, 54 weeks, 54 parshot. Every parshot has 7 aliyot. And you begin the first aliyot on Sunday, Monday the second aliyot. Now, what you could do is, the best way of doing this is you go to Wikipedia. And then, like, for example, the parsha for next week is Miketz. That's his name, Miketz. So go to Wikipedia and say Parsha Miketz. Parsha Miketz. And it'll take you to Parsha Miketz, and there it's divided into the 7 aliyot. 7 aliyot. And you could actually keep it on your screen, and on Sunday, read the first first aliot. On Monday, second aliot. Tuesday, third aliot.
I wrote them on the board one time.
Oh, yeah. And that is the best way of doing it.
And then that first one, you can read that first audio and study it
Mhm.
and do your research on that. And then the next day, go to the next one and do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. It is, in fact, if I could get, when I was a professor at Trinity, we would have teaching assistants, and these are the students, and they get credit for being a teaching assistant, and you could tell them, I want you to do this. If one of you has time in a computer, if you have time in a computer, what I would love to do is to get the Parsha schedule and then go to Wikipedia and just cut and paste Parsha Miketz, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, chapter 45, verse 1 through 5. Chapter 45, verse 5 through 15. Chapter 45 and 15, going
So,
down.
yeah.
And like that, everybody would have, and this doesn't change every year. It doesn't change the year. The only thing that changes is the dates, but every year it's the same schedule.
That's what I need to do I've got the parcels already in folders, all
Yeah.
54 of them. So now I just need to do is go back and get that for each partial and then just insert it and
Yeah.
have it.
Basically, that's what I do on my Jerusalem Bible,
Mm-hmm.
I got a place to put notes,
Mhm.
but I never noticed that about Wikipedia. That's who I basically use, and I'll put down, say, Leslacha or whatever the.
Yeah.
Lexicon.
Leslacha, Parsha, and I write down what Wikipedia says on it, and then I do a study on it, but I never knew about the Aliyah.
Yeah, aliot.
Aliyah. And now, thank you, Yahweh, and thank you, brother, for bringing that across my head, because that's what I'm gonna start doing. And I was doing mine on Shabbat night. On Shabbat night, we do our home Shabbat every Friday night. And then as we would go, after we do our Shabbat night, we read the Torah scrolls, and we'll watch a movie, a Christian-based movie, because that's all there is. Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's no
Well, not the
Torah.
Terminator.
Well, I go to Pureflix, right?
Not the Terminator.
Yeah, we don't watch the Terminator. So we'll watch a movie, a Christian movie, and then we go to sleep, and then like about 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll get up, and I'll go to another room, and I'm all alone, brother, and I just start studying on the Parsha. But I didn't know about this, so
Yeah.
what I'm gonna start doing, starting Sunday, like you said, do it Sunday,
Mhm.
and do a little bit Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday
Yeah.
night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Yeah.
get ready for my Shabbat. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't know that.
And
I do
everybody
now.
should do that. In fact, the whole congregation should be doing that.
I didn't know that. I really
And-
didn't know till now.
And again, we've mentioned that before, but again, always remember, and that's why questions are good, even though somebody says, well, I'm tired of that question. Because remember, we are always growing, and sometimes we need to learn that, sometimes we need to relearn that and remember that, because sometimes we forget. Even I forget sometimes. We're caught up in work, we're caught up in family, we're caught up in funerals or weddings and stuff like that. And sometimes I could go like 2-3 days without reading the parsha for the day, the aliot for the day, and again we have to catch up.
But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do we have to study the whole thing or like a, dedicate ourselves maybe like to about a half an hour or 15-20 minute devotional time on the Aliyah? Is there a specific way, what am I probably asking
No.
then? Is there a specific way of doing it? Or is there or could we do it as we want, but in a steady pace?
Yeah, there's no specific way of doing it, and you just get your alia for
For
that
Monday,
day.
say Monday's
say
aliyah.
Monday, and you just study it, and of course, you could study it in your Jerusalem Bible, in your other Bible, if you have a Hebrew Bible, and study it in your Hebrew Bible. What I even do is
Thank you.
I have the Hebrew in CD, the actual Hebrew in CD. So I listen to the Aliyah, I listen to the Parsha, and it's not divided into Aliyot, but it's divided into Parshas. And like right now, and then I do the return, so I listen to it, then press return to the time, because on even in my car, if it's like right now I'm listening to Vayashev, so that's on 31 minutes and 29 seconds. So I'm listening to it, and then when I go to like 3-4 minutes, I go back, rewind the CD to 31:29, and then I listen to it again, then I listen to it again. Or sometimes I just put on the thing and I just go on when I'm driving on the CD. Now, if anyone wants a CD of the whole Tanakh, I have it available, and this is free. So it's not copyrighted, and the original says free to whoever wants it. So if anybody wants it, I could actually, in fact, what I was even thinking is that even in you know how KDAZ radio has the word through the night in English, the word through the night in English, on the radio station, if we wanted, we could actually run the whole Torah in a circle all night long, and the guy's just speaking Hebrew. The whole, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et ha'aretz ve'ha'aretz chayeta tohu, and he just goes on, and like that. There is nothing like that in the United States. So we could even do like that.
Wow.
Anybody that's studying Hebrew at night, and that thing could just be circling around. And as people are driving in their car or whatever they're doing with their computer, get up and want to do that, that's going on.
24 hours a day?
Well, yeah, 24 hours or 12 hours a night.
Well, yeah, 12
Yeah.
hours. Well, yeah.
That's what I like about that tape set that I have,
Mm-hmm,
the one that we were listening to.
mm-hmm,
And, and you get the gist of everybody, different people talking,
yeah. Yeah, he has it in English,
in English, but it's,
yeah, the dramatized.
dramatized one, where you have, Joseph talking, then you have Pharaoh talking, you have different,
And the way I'm understanding now the summary,
Uh-huh.
I usually put the summary on my notes,
Mhm.
because that's, it's easy for me to summarize it.
Yeah,
Just a slides of what is it all about. And there's in YouTube, there is a place called, I don't remember what the name is, but it's they do it, an automated,
Mhm.
an automated summarization of the Torah portion.
Mhm.
So like this week it was, let me see, I got it right here. Last week, but like I told you, this I was doing, because I didn't know about the Aliyah. So I was showing Mr. T, Richard, I was showing him, and it was Vaishlach, Vaishlach,
Shlach. That's me,
Vaishlach,
yeah.
okay? And it says the first word of the parasha is eighth weekly Torah portion. I write all
Yeah.
that down to
Yeah.
know, and then I go to that little, I just found it this week, in fact, and in YouTube, if you write down YouTube, it gives you the exact, place of that deal that I'm telling, the summary.
Mhm.
And it's really cool because they summarized it, it was about Vaishlach. Now I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
It was because of the animation,
Yeah.
because of that YouTube, I know it's about I know.
Well, I have in my, if anybody wants this, I have, what I did is I got the Jerusalem Bible. And what I've said, I like the Jerusalem Bible because like over here, another marriage for Esau. It has, Isaac sends Jacob to Laban. What I love about the Jerusalem Bible is that it's in paragraph form and it gives you the kind of a summary.
Of each.
What I did is I went through the whole Jerusalem Bible by hand, manually, and I just typed all that in there. And I put it in parshas. So I have it in a parsha, and then each parsha has a summary. And I have it in that form. And then I have the parsha with the outline and commentary on it.
That's just like the one you gave me.
That's the one I gave you on Vayeshev that you have. So I have that also. And what I did, here several years ago, except that, I wish I had the time.
This is the animation. That's the name of the deal.
I actually did it
This is the animation of the summary.
in a 3-ring binder. I call it the Holy Scriptures, the Torah, the Otero edition 2017. And, see, I get the word perudai, and means account, Parsha 23, Exodus, and then I put it, what I'm gonna read, and then here's the account, and you see the amount of metal used, and all this is from the Jerusalem Bible. So if you have a Jerusalem Bible,
You can do the same thing.
it's the same thing. This is the Jerusalem Bible,
Which edition?
66. This is the Jerusalem Bible, 66 edition. Everything, this is the Bible.
So those are the notes inside of the 66th edition
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Jerusalem.
But again, I wish I had time to edit it. I really need to edit it. But I do have it in outline form. I have it in outline form. I have it in commentary form. And again, this I wish I could do in book. That right there, we could put it in a book. You know? Yes.
Twofold question, which is kind of stupid. Is it critical when you're speaking Hebrew, the accenting of certain syllables?
Mhm.
Is that critical?
Very critical. And
Because just for, when Mike does the Shema,
mhm.
he says B'kol levaka, B'kol nefshaka. Most people, when they would read that, say B'kol leveka, B'kol nefshaka. But
Watch, this is the way I would do it. And let me give you the thing on that. And again, I've tried to tell them,
I'm just wondering, and also, why does he use Yahweh all the time instead of Yahweh?
again, the Vav and the Vav and the Wav are interchangeable depending on who wants to do it. I myself use Yahweh because today we use the Vav. We don't use the Wav anymore. We use the Vav. So it should always be Vav. But with this, it's Bechol Levacha. Cha.
Okay.
ובכל נפשך,
Okay, yeah.
ובכל נפשך,
Okay, well, he's,
ובכל מאודיך. Not ka. See, the thing is, Ashkenazi and Sephardic are two different things. If Mike would be since he's an English speaker, he pronounces it more like a
That's enough.
Ashkenazi. But if you read it from a Sephardic pronunciation, which is the pronunciation that is in Israel, it's a cha and not a ka, or it's not a kol, it's a chol, chof, chaf, chet, chaf, chet, chaf. And a lot of people, the Ashkenazi people, cannot say that, even though they try, just like
Like the word llorar,
yorar.
llorar, mañana, mañana, instead of banana,
Yeah.
mañana.
Yeah.
And a lot of, that's why like English people,
Yeah.
when they say mañana, it's like, you could tell right away that they're not Hispanics. I mean, they're talking good, great. But Yahweh is probably because they can say Yah.
Yeah.
um,
But, yeah.
second part of the question is this. When, it seems so stupid, but my question is, why do we read it in English and then say the Shema? Why don't we say the Shema first and then do it in English? Because when we go to the liturgy, we say the Hebrew first and then go to the, what's the reason for that? I mean,
I don't know what his reason for,
it,
I-
the order of things like
We
this
used to
really
say it
bothers
in
me. I
Hebrew
don't know
first and
why.
then in English,
yeah,
but, it changed, so.
yeah.
I don't understand that. It
Well,
seemed to
I'll
me
tell you
that-
what, let me, on that one, let me talk to Mike. We are going to have a meeting, he has a meeting every so often, and do you know when the next meeting is? or-
No, he hasn't told me anything fast.
Okay. He has meetings every so often, and we discuss, and we'll bring that one up. Because what we wanna do is make sure that we are again, giving that, Sephardic pronunciation rather than the Ashkenazi pronunciation.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I've been wanting this for a long time. And one of the reasons I don't come on Saturday nights to the Spanish service is because it's not a
It's not a Torah service.
it's not a Torah service.
It's a study.
And I really believe with my whole heart that the people that are here should be doing, I've told you this, I've said this, in fact, one weekend I decided to do it and then the other weekend they don't do it. But I really believe that the Torah portion should be made known, not only in English,
Mhm.
but to the people in Spanish. I mean, these people that you're getting here, the 4 or the 5 or the 10, whoever is here, it's at this time, it's more of a question and answer deal.
Correct.
Which,
What it is, and again, we've discussed that, and in the future, that's what we've discussed, but what we need in Spanish, see, in English, we have Shabbat, and of course, we have Tuesday and Fridays, but we have Wednesday night. In Spanish, we have only one service. Now, part of the problem is my time. Part of the problem is that I don't have the time to have a Spanish Torah service and a Spanish Bible study like I do for English. The other thing is that Brother Camargo, although he's been to Bible school and he's ordained minister in the Apostolic Church for many years, is only now learning some of these things. And I did, for a while, allow him to do the portion, but he himself said, you know what, I don't feel qualified I could share some things, but he says, I don't feel qualified. And